Hi, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Version 1, a podcast where interesting people come to talk about their creative processes, imposter syndrome, inspiration, failures along the way, and much more. I'm your host, Waverly, and we are at My Friend's Basement podcast studio in Brooklyn. And you can listen to this episode normally or over to YouTube to watch the video version. Today, I am here with John Fabiano, also known as Wags Around the World. Hi, John. Welcome to the show.
Hi, Waverly. Thank you so much for having me.
Could we just start with having you introduce yourself, please?
Yes, my name is John Fabiano, and I am the creator of Wags Around the World.
Awesome. What is Wags Around the World?
So, Wags Around the World is a photography project that travels to different countries to explore various relationships that humans have with dogs, and I capture them with my camera.
Yes, you have what can only be considered a dream job, like traveling around the world, photography, spending time with dogs and interesting people. So I can't wait to dive into all of that with you. To start out, what did you want to be when you were a kid?
Earliest memory of what I wanted to be was actually an archaeologist, which is interesting enough. I was obsessed with Jurassic Park. It came out when I was about 5 years old. I watched it almost every single day, and I wanted to dig for dinosaur bones. And after that, I would say veterinarian was what I wanted to be at one point or another. I had a lot of career changes as a youth, but it was always as a kid surrounded around like animals or something interesting like that.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, I always loved animals too. I was obsessed with dinosaurs when I was a kid, and I, of course, always loved dogs. I grew up with 3 dogs when I was a kid, and my parents had 3 dogs when I was an adult too. So, yeah, big dog family. When did your interest in photography start?
I would say that I took a high school class that really initially piqued my interest. It was the only thing I ever took that was different than, math, science, classes like that. And I understood sort of taking a photo. And it kind of stuck with me to the point of like traveling as I got older, trying to capture genuine photos and just like getting into the process of like trying to set up a shot and things like that. Just putting a little bit more thought into it rather than holding up my phone and snapping an image. And then when I really got into it was when COVID hit. I had some time on my hands and decided to invest in a camera for the first time. And that was when I really realized how much I love being behind a camera, putting myself out in situations. And pretty quickly, I had the subject of a dog to photograph all the time. I realized that that was the subject I loved to photograph more than anything.
Absolutely. And when did you decide to take your hobby of photography during the pandemic and turn it into this passion project and career that you now have?
I had the idea to travel probably 2018 or 19. I wanted to take some time and really just travel all over the world and see a ton, and quickly realized that I would need to do something along with it rather than just travel to travel. I needed a bigger project to work on. And photography was something that I thought this could be really cool to document it, focus on a certain subject, go to different places, and really have something that I was looking for. And quickly after I got my camera, I realized that dogs were the answer. That's what I love to photograph the most. And so I continued kind of planning the idea. I was putting away money as much as possible. And then I got to a point in about 2022 where I was in a situation where I was ready to go. I felt ready as much as I could. I was pretty overwhelmed the week leading up to my first trip, but got to that point and just kind of jumped in, and I kind of haven't looked back since.
That's wonderful. Could you tell me a bit about what is it about dogs that you find so inspiring?
Yeah, I say it and it's kind of corny, but I look to dogs as role models all the time. They're models of forgiveness. They live life with enthusiasm. My dog's over here laying on the bed right now, but if I asked her to go out and do something, she would jump up and be so energetic to do so. So there's definitely times in my life where, it was hard to get off the couch and maybe I was in a rut, and I looked to my dog to get out and go do something in nature. And I see them as an inspiration a lot. They really live life to the fullest. They live for the moment. They don't dwell on things. And I just really love being in the presence of a dog. It instantly lifts my mood.
Yeah, I love that. I have a very similar story. I have a rescue dog named Tati, and I got her a month after I suffered a concussion in a freak accident. And I was like kind of scared to go outside because it's like a long story, but basically I was hit in the head with something as when I was outside in a freak accident. And so getting this dog who has to go out 3 times, 4 times a day, really helped me pull me out of that kind of traumatic time in my life. So I love what you said. It's so true. And even on your like worst day, you have something to get you out of bed and get a little fresh air and sunshine in your eyes. So I absolutely
Yeah,
love that.
the ultimate companions, whatever it is, to go for a walk around the block, they're happy to do it. To hop in the car and go to the grocery store, they're happy to do it. They just want to be with you and doing stuff with you. It's it's really nice. And people who have had dogs, you grew up with them, you understand the companionship of a dog is second to none.
Yeah, absolutely. Did you grow up with dogs?
Yes, we had them my whole life. So it wasn't until I went to college that really I was in a house without a dog. And you're lucky you had three. We always had one at a time. And anyone who's had a dog knows the emptiness of a house without a dog. It's eerily quiet. When our dogs passed when we were growing up, it was almost like how quickly can we get another dog in the house? It's just they become such a part of the family, and they're such a mood lifter to just being around them. Once you have a dog, you want one for life, basically.
Yeah, absolutely. Also, we should say, because we were chatting about this before, we're both from Buffalo. And that's part of why I had initially reached out to you. So, yeah, we both grew up with dogs in Buffalo. We're from different parts, though, because you're from the North Towns, right?
Yes, I grew up in Amherst.
Awesome. Yeah, I grew up in Orchard Park.
Oh yeah, all right, yeah, not too far down.
Yeah, so small world.
Yes, exactly. But everyone hearing the nasal A's and the Buffalo accents will say these two people sound alike.
Absolutely, absolutely. I want to start, or I want to go back to when you started with photography. How did you begin to learn? Because I recently got into photography a couple years ago, and I found it very intimidating to start. So I'm curious what your journey was like, getting back into it after having some experience with it in high school.
Yeah, and I would say my high school experience was very minimal. About like $100 digital camera that I would bring around and take photos once in a while, and then it sat in a drawer for a decade. So when I wanted to get into photography, I found a mentor, and his name's Colin Gordon. He's a photographer in Buffalo. He does a lot of weddings, and I reached out to him just to pick his brain. He was a few years behind me at the same high school, and I'd known him to shoot a couple weddings, and always really liked his work. And I just said, this is kind of my idea. Can you help me pick out a camera? And he was just so helpful. And I thank him to this day. And I really owe a ton to him. I took a couple lessons with him, learned how to use my camera, like walking me through every single setting, and then going through the editing process, things that I probably could have figured out all online. And I mean, there's so many resources on the internet that can help you with your photography journey, and which I utilize all the time. But in those early days where it was felt so overwhelming, just to have like a positive presence and voice who knew exactly what they were doing and is very successful in photography was huge for me. So I always think back to those early days when I was taking some horrible, horrible photos, and him giving me some gentle guidance and helping me out was really necessary at the time, and definitely instrumental in my journey.
Absolutely. And then once you kind of got the hang of your camera and you're taking more photos, how did you figure out when you were ready to finally embark on your first journey to go photograph dogs?
I I don't think I ever truly would feel ready. I just said, I was like, if I'm going to do this, I have to do it. And I'll even look back on some of my photos from those first days traveling, say, they could use a little work, the editing could use a little work. And it's something that you're constantly growing as. And I remember seeing a photographer say that your first 10,000 photographs are going to be horrible. And I would think back and I'm like, that seems like so many photographs when I read it. And I look back and there aren't many winners in my first 10,000 photographs. So it's something that it's just practice reps. Get behind the camera, shooting as much as possible, tinkering, editing, being open to learning and changing style is something that I think I've always been open to, and learning from peers. And I look at your photography and it's fantastic. And
Thank you.
you all the time, you Instagram puts it right in your face of other photographers, and you can learn from them. So, am I ready now? I don't know, but it's one of those things that you just got to do it. Whether you feel fully ready or not, I don't know if you ever really would. And it's just getting out there and giving it a try.
Yeah, absolutely. What was your first trip? Where was it? Could you tell me about it?
Yeah, I went to Germany. So my first focus was German Shepherds. So I traveled through 4 or 5 different cities in Germany, visited German Shepherd breeders, got to look at what their life was like, raising and breeding a specific breed. You and I both have rescues. Like I was never a breed guy. We had mutts growing up. It didn't really matter to me. So it was cool seeing different loves of dogs. I had some people that I connected with really well, but they'll only ever own a German Shepherd. It's they almost put them as like separate than dogs. It's like German Shepherds are their own thing and have such a love and appreciation for them. So it was very cool to connect with people just right off the bat that like, yes, we both have a love of dogs, but maybe we love them in a different way, or we have a different interest in dogs. With them, obviously breed specific.
Wow, that's incredible. What were some of the first major lessons that you learned through that first experience?
One I think of is like equipment, and you can probably think of it as a photographer. I went out one day and I thought I had all my batteries charged, and they were just every single one was dead, and it made me feel very much like an amateur that I had to go and charge a battery to get going. So that was from an equipment standpoint, and from a personal standpoint, too, it was just on being very open and like listening a lot more than I was talking because I was trying to learn from these people. And I thought it was all about the dogs, and I realized very quickly it was a lot more about the people as well. And they were who I was learning from. So while the dogs are typically the subject of the photos, I learned so much from the people right off the bat, and found that the connections I was making were just really special and stuff that I continue to maintain to this day.
That's so cool. What were some of the things that you learned from those people that you were photographing?
I I would say from a breeding standpoint, how much goes into it. I remember the first house I went to for a breeder. She was walking me through it and what goes into it, and it looked like a more complex system than some of the businesses I'd worked at. How much time, energy, effort goes into breeding dogs. It's meticulous to make sure that these dogs are healthy. They want every generation to be better than the last. There's all the stories about breeding and it's done inappropriately, or it's done without care or concern for the dog, the backyard breeders, things like that. If anyone wants a model of how to breed dogs, go to Germany, and the SV is the organization that does it. It's unbelievable how much is put into these dogs to make sure that they are raised well, they're healthy, and they maintain a breed that's very special to them.
That's awesome. Yeah, my family's dogs have been from breeders, but as an adult, I've always been really passionate about rescuing. Like, you know that phrase that's like, oh, if I won the lottery, I wouldn't tell anyone, but there would be signs. And it's normally a picture of like a boat or like a mansion or something. Mine would be just like rescuing senior dogs and like giving them the best sort of last years of their life possible because I really love rescuing. But I think, yeah, breeding definitely is very important in terms of like maintaining like a healthy species and everything like that, for sure. So yeah, I've recently like also kind of like been learning about it, and I was like, oh, I used to be very like anti is a strong word, but like just like for me personally, like I don't know if I would ever buy a dog, but if that's someone else's journey, no judgment. But then I was like, oh wait, breeders actually have like a very important role in like the dog world.
Yes, I think they get a bad reputation at times, and myself, I'll always rescue. It's just that's my style of dog.
Same.
I understand that as a world, we have too much supply of dogs.
Mhm.
Basically, you go to shelters; they're all full of dogs that are wonderful and need homes. But there also are people are getting dogs for specific purposes, and then going and working with dogs in different situations, or seeing working dogs in different situations, I realized that certain breeds are bred for that. It's in their instincts. They throw a dog out to herd cattle, and it just kind of follows in the other dogs, and it seems like it knows exactly what it's doing right away. There's a reason that dogs were bred to do certain jobs,
Totally.
but my dogs don't work. They lay around on the couch, and basically any breed can do that. So I'm usually looking for give me a lower energy dog that'll hang out with me, and that's good enough for me. I don't really care what they look like.
Yeah, I feel the exact same way. I actually think the uglier, scrappier, the better.
Yes.
Now, since that first trip, you have done so many interesting trips and photos. You've gone dog sledding in Greenland. You were just on a lobster boat. So, what has been some topics or locations or photos that have stuck out in your mind? Because you've done so many like really cool things.
Yeah, Greenland to me was like I was on a different planet. When I went there, I wanted to make sure I was getting the most authentic story possible. So I went really far north. I went to the northernmost indigenous community in the world. It's called Sierra. It's about 40 people. There's one store in the town. There's no cars, no streetlights, anything like that. And when we were taking the helicopter up, it just was like it was unreal. I never knew that the earth looked like that, and it was really like miraculous to be in an area like that. So the dogs were incredible, and that was such a unique experience seeing how people live in those conditions and use dogs to survive. And then just have this surrounding of just like pristine glaciers and things like that was really, really cool.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, your photos from that I was looking this morning are incredible. Yeah, and then also the lobster boat photos that you've been posting recently are so cool with the black lab. And yeah.
Yes, Briggs. Yeah, that was cool. I was looking for dogs, and I'll put in quotes, working situations. Briggs joins his dad Eric on the boat every single day when he goes out fishing for lobsters, and it's really the companionship of a dog. You know, he's out on the boat by himself, and having a dog there is you can talk to them all day. They're not going to say anything back, but it's nice to just have that camaraderie when you're in his situation out on the water at work.
Yeah, and it seems like a dream life for a dog. Like that dog seems like he's living his best life.
Absolutely. Like that's we talked about like dogs just want to live. They want to do something. You could leave him at home all day and he'll be fine. I'm sure he'll sleep. He'll be ecstatic when you get home. But what would he much rather do? He'd be by your side the whole day and out on the boat with you and just enjoying life. And it really like the commands of drive the boat, and he jumps up next to him and fish on or something like that. And he jumps over the side of the boat and like puts his paws up to look out. He just labs have fun in any situation, and Briggs absolutely was having a blast on the boat.
Absolutely. Now, how does it work when you have an idea, let's say, to go shoot dogs in a particular place? Like, do you just show up in that place and hope they let you tag along? Do you contact them beforehand and explain what your project is and who you are? Like, how does that work? How do you get the photographs that you do?
So I try and work basically any avenue. So, for example, I went to Hungary recently, and I wanted to photograph Komondors. They're these big dogs that have these dreadlocks of hair. They're just really unique dogs. And when I saw that they're a Hungarian breed, I thought I really want to photograph them. And I wanted to get them in a working situation. It'd be nice to get someone who has them as a pet and pampers them, but I wanted these dogs are bred to protect livestock. So I was searching every avenue. I've utilized Facebook more in the last 2 years than I did in the decade before of joining dog groups and community groups and posting and just saying, basically, this is who I am and what I'm doing. Does anyone know of someone that would be interested in free photography for them? And it's usually emails, Facebook messages, Reddit subpages, me doing ChatGPT searches to find any contact information. And it's buckshot. I shoot out and see who I can connect with. And typically I'll be able to find someone who's really excited and really interested in it. So it's opened up so many doors for me just to kind of put myself out there and say, like, this is what I'm doing. This is my idea. Would you like to be a part of it? And a lot of times the people are ecstatic. And my brother mentioned it to me one time. He goes, what if someone contacted me and say, can I take photos of your dog? And I'd be like, of course, yeah, I love my dog. I'd love if you took photos of it. So I kind of kept that in my mind going throughout it, that a lot of people have a connection to their dog. And if I can just show them that I want to sort of spotlight this connection and what their dogs mean to them, people have been very receptive of it. And I've met so many people across the world that have just wanted to show off their dog to me.
That's wonderful. Yeah, my next question was going to be what is the general reception? Because sometimes, you know, getting reached out to from a stranger, sometimes people may be hesitant or like, who are you? You want to like come into my house, you know? But it sounds like, yeah, people have been really warm and receptive, which is wonderful.
Yeah, in the beginning, it was tough because I was such a nobody.
Mm.
And I really didn't tell many people that I was doing photography. I did it in my own time and didn't talk about it all that much. Again, I didn't think I was that good at it at the time. I didn't want to be walking around with a camera taking photos. And I think that's why I sort of found myself photographing dogs because it was easy to do. They were constant subjects. They didn't ask any questions. They didn't care if my photos turned out good or bad. Um, and in the beginning, I was just sending pictures of my personal Instagram and saying, like, this is my idea that I'm doing. And I'm so lucky that people in Germany were receptive of it. That they said, sure, come, we'd love to show you what we do in our dogs. Where now it's gotten a little bit easier because I can show them a full Instagram profile of all my photography. I can send a CNN article where they talked about my travels and they can get an idea that I'm not just some complete stranger. Although I always thank people that, you know, you said yes to a stranger on the internet. But now at least a couple things are out there that I can show them that I've been doing this for a while. I've been to X number of places and I just come really wanting to see the dogs and photograph them, and that's my end goal.
That's awesome. Where do you find inspiration?
I follow a lot of other photographers. I find inspiration from other people's work, especially people who do something completely different from me. So I wouldn't say dog photographers I find inspiration from as much because I kind of have my own eye and my own vision for what I want out of it. Not to say that I don't use dog photographers to get ideas and things like that, but just seeing other people's work and what they're able to do with a camera. And I'd say like setting up an entire shot. And do I want to focus just on the dog? Do I want to focus on the landscape behind them? Do I want to focus on the situation they're in? It's just keeping an open mind to how people frame a shot, things like that. And Instagram makes it really helpful to just be able to follow people who have some incredible work and take an editing detail here or take a framing detail here. Things that'll just kind of stick with me and then might click in my mind when I'm behind the camera.
That's awesome. When you are spending time with these dogs and their humans, how much time are you typically spending with them? Is it a couple of days, couple of hours? Like, what does it look like?
I usually do about a day with a group of people. So I'm going to spend multiple days, especially if we've been able to go to different locations, bring their dogs to different places. Um, it also is how well you connect with them. Some people, it's been nice experiences. And, you know, here are the photos and we don't hear from each other. It's like any situation in life. And then other people, you know, we're wishing each other happy birthdays and messaging every few weeks to check in and catch up. And those are the type of people that like, I would go back and visit again. And some of them I have. And I've met so many special people along the way. And people that I'll call friends for life now, which is really cool. And those are the people that I would love to go back and see them again and see how their dogs are doing and photograph them some more.
That's awesome. Who are some of those people that you've kept in touch with?
Yeah, so there's a woman. Her name's Agate Rank. She owns a kennel in Germany called Nagler Kennels, and Agate was like the second or third person I visited, and I went back and visited her two more times. She invited me to stay at her house for a second time, and then she was doing a dog show. I was not planning on going back to Germany, and she's like, "You got to come, you got to come," and I did. So I went back again, and she's just a wonderful human. She gave me a lot of confidence when I was first starting. I consider her a good friend. We keep into contact pretty regularly, and I hope to get back and see her again because it's been a couple of years now since I've seen her. But she was just wonderful and really someone that was really important to me in the beginning of my travels.
That's awesome. And especially since she's been one of the first people, it sounds like, that you worked with, I'm sure going back, you're able to see kind of her dogs grow up or grow older. Like you can photograph them in different life stages if you keep going back, right?
Yeah, that's it's really cool. And I do know a photographer who's done dogs about 10 years apart. And to show him like he's a puppy and then you see him all gray. And it's cool to see that side by side of him in a life lived just in two still images. So I do. She has a dog named Pandora that I
Oh.
absolutely loved. We just connected right away. And she always calls Pandora my princess. So she'll message me and be like, "Your princess is waiting for you. Like, when are you coming back to visit me again?" So I got
Oh.
to get back to see Pandora, my girl. I was sitting at her kitchen table. Pandora was on the seat right next to me. Massive German Shepherd, just happy to be with a visitor. German Shepherds sometimes can be a little territorial and standoffish, but Pandora and I connected pretty quickly.
Oh. Does your dog travel with you?
So the only place she's come to with me is Costa Rica. We went there for about 4 months together. She stays with my parents while I'm traveling, but we are looking to relocate in the next couple months, and I'll bring her with me and probably set up shop for a little bit because I honestly I miss her the most out of anyone when I'm away. And dogs' lives aren't long enough. I don't want to waste any more time not being with her. So Viola's going to be coming with me next up.
Oh, that's exciting. Where are you relocating to?
We're looking to relocate to the Netherlands. So we're hoping my girlfriend and I are looking to move there in the next couple months, and Viola will be making the trip with us. So it'll be
That's
cool to set
so
up shop in Europe for
exciting.
a bit.
Yeah, why the Netherlands?
It just seems like a good place for us. We had been there together, both loved Amsterdam. It's a really cool city. And I'm getting to the point now where I'm going to have to start working a job again. Dog photography doesn't exactly pay the bills. So it's a very cool city with some work opportunities that fit both of us. And we want the experience of living abroad for a bit.
That's so cool. I would love to live abroad one day. So I'm so jealous. That's amazing. I have friends who just moved to the UK with their dog. And yeah, they said it was stressful, but it's so worth it. And Europe is so much more dog friendly than the United States, just generally speaking. So that's so
Yeah,
exciting.
a lot of off leash parks. Dogs just seem very relaxed there. You don't see like dog fights or anything. They're running free. It's I don't know if it's just that they're raised that way, that there's a lot of off leash areas where dogs can roam and be free. And we're excited to get Viola over there and let her run around Amsterdam a little bit.
Oh, that'll be so nice. My boyfriend and I were in Mexico City last year, and we were in this neighborhood where a lot of expats live, and there were dogs everywhere. We were in this park, and there were just like if you stood still, you could probably see like 50 dogs in like 10 minutes. So many. And I like the whole joke throughout the trip was like, oh my gosh, if we moved to Mexico, like we could teach Tati Spanish. Like she would love to run with the Mexican dogs. Like so it's also like a dream of ours to show her the world.
Yeah, it's fun. Traveling with a dog it makes things more stressful and more expensive, and but it's absolutely worth it. Getting her to Costa Rica was not easy. We drove from Buffalo to Los Angeles to fly from there
Wow.
because it was the shortest direct flight. And people are like, "You're crazy," and I said, "The road trip's going to be a blast too. Like it's every part of it is fun, and having her with us was just incredible." Walking her through Las Vegas casino was a very funny moment during our trip. She just makes everything better when she's around. So I'll jump through the extra hoops to take her with me when I can.
Yeah, I 100% agree. I think that some people maybe hear that and are like, "Oh my God, you're crazy." But no, like
Yeah.
it's your kid. Like, I mean, I don't have any human kids and people get like real defensive when people like call their dogs their kids, but I think of her as my kid, and I wouldn't leave my kid behind. I'm not going to leave my dog behind, she's part of the family.
Yeah, she's comes every decision I'm making when I'm thinking about relocating and things like that. Like she's taken into consideration.
Yeah.
I could leave her with my parents. She would be plenty happy here. They take great care of her, get her a ton of exercise. They have a couple dogs that she's happy with. But I when I got her, she was my responsibility. Too many people think like, oh, I'm moving to a place, I'm going to drop my dog off at the shelter. I can't imagine it. I can't believe people do it.
Yeah.
How do you have a dog and then just decide to make a life decision where they don't fit into? I think they're your responsibility if you want a dog, and it's a lifelong responsibility. So
100%.
yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. What is your equipment setup? Can you walk me through like what camera you use, what lenses? Tell me all the technical details.
Yes, I have a Nikon. I have a D750, which I am dying to upgrade with the Z series on Nikon. Is uh, it's just I see the things with like pet eye detection and things like that. I'm like, this is exactly what I need, and those are the type of specs that I would absolutely love to have on my body. But I probably need a little bit more money and a little more income before I trade in my current set for a new one. And then I have a 1.4 aperture lens, a prime lens, and then I have one that is a zoom lens, and it is 70 to 200. And I had one that I got for South Africa that was 200 to 500 because I needed more zoom when I was photographing wild dogs. But that one I recently sold because I really wasn't using it other than when I did for that few week period when I was in South Africa.
Oh, cool. What was South Africa like? And what are I guess I've my experience with wild dogs is I've like seen them in different parts of the world. Like I saw them in Peru and in Panama and things like that. But what was it like in South Africa?
Yeah, so this was the African wild dog. So, like, not domestic dogs at all.
Oh.
These are very, very wild dogs. It was the one that I did that was like completely different. And, you go on the family tree of the canines, and they're on one side of the tree, and our domestic dogs are on the other side of the tree. So, not real closely related, but I wanted to see, wild dogs living in a pack that are going and hunting for like antelope, or they're hunting in packs and things like that. And that wasn't something that I could set up. They're an endangered species. I think there's only about 10,000 of them left in Africa. And we went to Kruger National Park and just went on safari every single day with the intention of finding them. So I had a guide who was fantastic. She was tracking the packs and where they were sighted for weeks before I arrived. And we would just get in her van and drive around looking for them. I think Kruger's about the size of New Jersey. It's a massive national park. And we saw tons of elephants, lions, giraffes, things like that. But then also got to see wild dogs about 5 or 6 different times, which was really cool to capture those images of them. It's You can see in their eyes there's the relation to the dogs, but there's such a wildness to them, and quite a bit different than what we know as our pets.
Wow, that's so cool. Yeah, see, I was thinking street dogs. So like domesticated
Yeah,
dogs living on the street. This is like a different Is it a
yeah, it's
different
completely
species?
different. Yeah, they're
Technically?
a different species.
Okay.
They're not as closely related to our domestic dogs, but I did the street dogs in India, where they were everywhere. So those are the two. I did the wild dogs category. I did the actual wild African dogs, the painted dogs in South Africa, and then I did the street dogs in India, which was a really cool experience as well.
Yeah, that's awesome. Have you seen the documentary about the street dogs in, I think it's Istanbul. I think it's somewhere in Turkey. There's like a documentary
I have
film.
not.
Do you
No, but I've heard that there's a lot of street dogs there. People have recommended it's a place for me to go.
Yeah, there's a whole documentary on it. I wish I would remember the name, but it exists. So yeah, that's something you can Google later. But yeah, you mentioned that's one of the categories you photographed, and I was reading about the different categories of how you think about your work. Could you explain what those categories are?
Yeah, so originally I had 4 categories. I had the purebred dogs, that was German Shepherds in Germany and Shibas in Japan. I had the working dogs, I did the sled dogs in Greenland, and I did the cattle dogs in Australia. I did the wild dogs, which wild dogs in South Africa, and the street dogs in India. And then I did what I like to call the underdogs. That was rescue dogs in the United States and the restricted dog breeds in Ireland. So certain breeds in Ireland, they have to be muzzled all the time. They have to be on short leashes. It's German Shepherds, Pit Bulls, Rottweilers, dogs that they see as aggressive, apparently. They have extra restrictions on them and the way that owners can handle them.
Oh, interesting. And how did you come up with those four categories?
I I rented an office before I was going. It was a really small office in the basement of a building. It's just a way to really focus on this project. And I had pieces of tape I was sticking on the wall and putting countries on it and dog relationships. And I was just ripping pieces off, putting them back on. So I went through a lot of different areas that I could go and focus on, and it landed on that. Those seem to be the most interesting to me, the most diverse of different relationships. It split up the world in a lot of different ways. It was 5 different continents, I believe, and it just through thought and original planning, that was what I set. And I changed the countries at times. Spain used to have restricted dog breed laws. They got rid of all of them. So Spain was my original country I was going to go to for the underdogs category. So I switched to Ireland because they still have those laws in place. So I had to be a little bit flexible on where I was going. But those original 4 categories is what I came up with and what I stuck to.
Gotcha. It sounds like having categories to work within helped you in your creative process because it helped, it seems like, organize sort of your thoughts or what you wanted to show. Is that correct?
Yeah, I wanted differing looks too, and I knew I was going to find different people. Someone who is breeding dogs out of their house is going to be much different than someone who doesn't speak my language and is using a dog as a tool to pull a sled. So it gave me a wide variety of things, but also gave me some structure. So I think some people probably thought that I just went on a whim and threw a dart at a map of what comes next, but I really had things all planned out before the get-go and stayed pretty true to it. I've opened things up a little bit more now that I completed those 4 categories that I originally set out to. So now, I look at dogs and they fit into those categories, but I'm always keeping an open mind of cool relationships that humans have with dogs.
Yeah, absolutely. As someone who's witnessed so many different forms of relationships between humans and dogs across cultures, what are the biggest lessons or like takeaways you've seen from all these different experiences that you've had?
I would say the biggest lesson that I've had is just to really appreciate your dogs. I There's been a lot of heartbreak throughout it of people talking about how they lost a dog or they had that one dog that was really special to them. And I said it earlier, their lives aren't long enough. And to really appreciate what you have and the connection that you have with these dogs, I think I keep it to mind and I hug mine a little bit tighter and love on her a little bit more because it really is special that no matter where you are in the world, what your culture is, how you were brought up, like dogs can play such an instrumental part in your life, and they do it for people all over the world. So it's definitely a connector between humans. I know I stayed in houses with people who don't speak my language, but we had the dog. Like I could point to their dog. I could sit on the ground and rub their dog's stomach, and like it's an instant bond. I think like food is another one. If you go into someone's house and you eat their food and respect their culture, like there's an appreciation there. But also to walk in and just show, I have an appreciation for this thing that you care for and you love. It was definitely a connector for me in a lot of different places.
That's so beautiful. Yeah, even if you don't speak the language, you know you're a friend because you're treating their family pet with love and respect. So,
Mhm. Yeah, I was in the house of a Japanese family, which I just absolutely loved. They were so wonderful to me. Spoke very little English, but we used Google Translate to communicate a little bit. And I have this screenshot on my phone, and she wrote it out in Japanese and gave it to me, and it said like something along the lines of like, "Let's make world peace through dogs" or something like that. And it was. It still sticks with me of like we both just recognize the good they are in the world, and I loved an ambitious goal like that was translated to me.
that's so beautiful. That's so
Yeah,
poetic.
yes. I think if we look to dogs and the way that they treat each other and the way that they live life, the world might be a more peaceful place too.
Totally agree. What are some of your biggest challenges through your work?
I would say that first, I'll say like a financial standpoint, like I want to keep doing it, but it's not something that makes me money. Like it makes me a little, but it's not something that I can fund on my own forever. So I get questions a lot about how do I afford it, and it's running through my savings account. I don't have a house or I don't have a car at this point. I basically sold everything I have to fund this and make it happen. And I wish that I could just keep doing it, but that's not the reality of it. So I found different ways to make some money along the way, but um, pursuing something creatively that is just such a passion does not always mean that there's going to be a financial windfall to come at the end of it. So um, I'll continue doing it. It might look different once I start working again, but I'm glad that I took the time to put 100% into it, give it my full effort and energy, and build it into something that I'm proud of and that I can keep going, even if I do have a 9 to 5. When I make a trip, I can still look at different angles and ways to turn a trip into photography with dogs as well.
Yeah, absolutely. That's amazing that it's self-funded and you've been able to continue doing it this long. So major props to you because that's really really difficult to do. Do you have any advice for people who have a creative passion or pursue and they're afraid to take the leap and pursue it full throttle like you did?
Yeah, I would say, will you regret it if you don't? And I knew that I would. So I really felt like I had to. And I read a book that was like a monumental time for me when it's called The Crossroads of Should and Must. And it's doing things in life you should do, and then there's something that you must do. And I read that book and I said, I must do this. And that office space I talked to you about, when I finished the book, I reached out about renting an office space. I go, I'm going to take this very seriously now. And I was on the road in less than a year after that. So if it's something that you think that has legs and that you're actually serious about, give it your all. And that's what I did. You can play with it on the side, but life gets in the way. Unless you take it 100% serious, at least for a certain amount of time, to see if it's something that really has some momentum and that if you like doing it. Now, you might find out that I like the idea of it, but I don't actually like doing it. I found out pretty quickly. I was incredibly happy and I absolutely loved traveling to photograph dogs.
I love that. I'll have to pick up that book. That's incredible.
It's awesome. It's an easy read. It's quick, and I read it on a flight to. I think I read it on the flight to New York. I was going to visit a friend for a weekend, and on the flight home is when I reached out to someone on Craigslist about renting out an office space. I said I have to be able to go on nights and weekends because I was working at the time, and I said I have to be able to bring my dog with me. They said yes to both, and it was very cheap, and it was a place where I could just go and say, let's see if this has some momentum and legs. And that's when I originally started reaching out to people to say, hey, this is my idea. Would you be welcome to me coming to visit you?
That's incredible. That's so cool.
Mm-hmm.
I'll definitely read that book. Thank you for the
Yeah, it's a good
recommendation.
one. Yes.
Was there a particular either failure or setback that affected you throughout your career?
I would say maybe taking a different turn. So my education, I got a law degree and an MBA. I went to law school with the idea that I was going to work in the sports world, and I realized pretty quickly law wasn't for me. Still got my degree, got my MBA as well, and went right into business. And I worked in business for a long time. I liked it. Was pretty happy with most of my jobs. And right before I left, actually, I had taken a job. They'd recruited me, took me on. I realized pretty quickly that it was not a good fit. And they laid off the sales team like 3 months into me working. So this was the summer of 2022. And I mean, I wasn't expecting to be out of a job that quickly. I was expecting to at least work for a while, save up some more money, be ready to go. And I called a friend of mine who, he's a really close friend. He knew that I had this plan to travel. I mean, I could count on one hand the number of people who knew. And I called him and I told him, like, yeah, I just got let go. They cut our whole sales team. And he said, congratulations. And he goes, I know you didn't like that job. And I know that you have something else you have to do. And then he was talking about me traveling and photographing dogs. So it was really a turning lemons into lemonade moment for me. And I found myself in the position, if not now, then when. And that's when I decided to go for it.
That's so inspirational. Yeah, as someone who also has been laid off and my partner just got laid off as well, it's so difficult to go through that sometimes, even if it's a job you didn't like. So do you have any like words, and there's a lot of people getting laid off nowadays too. Do you have any words of advice or encouragement for people going through that as someone who went through it a couple years ago?
Yeah, first off, like it's okay to be like down. I remember thinking I was like, give myself a day to like process this. And then I got to Friday and I was like, give myself a week. And I didn't get much done for the first like week or two. I was really like, it's tough. It's a hit to your ego, even if it was because they overhired and then had to scale back. I knew that the quality of work I was doing, not that I was even really given the chance because it was such a short time frame, but businesses are going to make those decisions, and it's just don't take it personally, and maybe take that time to really take a step back and say, what do I want to do next? It gives you a bit of freedom, not financial freedom, but it gives you a lot of freedom with time. And I use that time for me to work on getting myself ready to travel. And that time was really important to me because I wasn't ready as soon as I got laid off. Like I had more things I had to do, stuff I had to button up, stuff I had to practice, and I took a few months before I actually hit the road and went traveling. And I got myself in a really good place that I felt confident and ready to go. So it stinks. It really does. I'm sorry to hear that you both have gone through that. But you'll look back and say, that led us to where we are now. And it might be something that you really are grateful for. I kind of look back and I am grateful for it.
Yeah, I was joking with my partner. I was like, life is giving us a factory reset. Like we have to take this opportunity. And even though it sucks in a lot of ways, for sure, but I'm trying to put a positive spin on it. I'm like, okay, life factory reset. Where are we going from here? We could do anything, go anywhere. So I'm trying to also put a positive spin on it and seeing where life will take us. But
Yeah,
that's
and
great
especially
advice.
like you running a podcast and you have a creative side to you, it does give you more time to do things like that. And I remember seeing some of your stories about you were reading The Artist's Way and doing things by yourself and taking yourself on dates. And it's hard to do that when you're in the machine and you're churning and you're tired from work and you want to get your camera out in the evening and go do photos. And sometimes those are really peaceful moments if you can go in the middle of the day and do them. And for me, that's like energizers for me. It puts me in such a better mood. Sometimes it's hard to like get up and do it, but I'm always thankful after I'm finished with it. So hopefully you can use that time to do things like that because clearly you have a very creative side to you.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much. Have you ever experienced imposter syndrome?
Oh yeah, I still do. I will still look at my photos and be like, these are brutal. It's it's tough. I think I'm just a little bit like I have a touch of like perfectionism, and I'll get mad if my photos didn't turn out the way I wanted them to, or I'll compare them. Which I always say comparison is the thief of joy. I'll compare them to other people and say my photos aren't as good as them, but then I realize like I'm doing something different. Do I even want my photos to look like theirs? It's maybe they edited them in a completely different way, and that's not what I do. I don't overly edit my photos, and it's like what am I comparing to? All I have to compare to is myself. And when I look back at what my photos were a couple of years ago, I think personally that they're a lot better today. So it's like, okay, I'm improving, and that's what I try and remember, because it's really hard in a creative world where there's no right answer to know if you're doing a good job or not, other than the way you're judging yourself, I would say, because at the end of the day, it's what you want to make of it. So I dealt with it a ton in the beginning when I was first getting out there. I was like, why would anybody want me to come visit them and photograph their dogs? I'm a nobody. I'm not a photographer. But I remember a woman called me an artist early on, and I would never ever think of myself as an artist. And for her to say that, I was like, wow, like it really touched me, and it's something I still am very appreciative in that moment when I was just getting started that she said that to me.
Yeah, absolutely. What are some either self-care practices or maybe mantras or things that you do to help get you out of a negative headspace if you are experiencing those imposter syndrome thoughts?
Yeah, so I had a piece of paper that I wrote three things on it, and I hung up on the wall of the office that I was renting, and it said the first one was now, right now, because I'll sit there and think about it for days. Just start doing something. Like, not I'm going to do it tomorrow. Do it right now. And that was really helpful for me to be like, oh, I'll get to that. And like, no, just I had to continue to just keep doing it immediately. The second one was progress every single day, and any progress is progress. So even if I wasn't feeling like it, like just upload my photos to my computer. Like just do a little part of something. And we both know like when you're uploading photos, it can take time to process and get ready to edit and things like that. So it's like even if I can just do a little bit, I'm setting myself up better for the next day, and I just need to build on top of that. And then my last one was, and I'll edit myself, was have effing fun. And had to remember that like I want to do this. And sometimes it can feel like a job, and I think I have 1,000 photos to go through and edit, and I don't want to sit in front of my computer all day. Like, I chose to do this, and I love doing it, and it's part of it. So I remember that, and I find fun in everything that I do throughout it. So those are three things that I wrote down very early on, and I think about quite a bit to just sort of motivate myself because I was on my own, and a lot of times I needed that self-motivation.
I love that because that's very similar to something that pulled me out of sort of analysis paralysis when I had either a bunch of ideas or something, and I just got so overwhelmed because there was it seemed like you're standing at the base of a mountain and you're just like, oh, like how do I even take the first step? As I would just tell myself, okay, just do one thing, like send one email, turn your computer on and log in or create an account on whatever website I had. You know what I mean? Instead of overwhelming yourself with, oh, I have to do this and then it's going to turn into that and it's going to do that. So like, I absolutely love that. And I think that's a really good piece of advice for people who are feeling overwhelmed or maybe self-doubtful or things like that.
Yeah, it's just you got to get started. And they say, what's the best way to eat an elephant? It's one bite at a time. And you think about it, something that's so overwhelming, but you have to start in little steps. Once you start building momentum too, then you're just flying. And I find that I find it hardest when I have a lot of free time. When I'm very busy, it's great because it's like I have this moment to get this done, and I'm just going to do it. But if you have a ton of free time to sort of do everything you're trying to accomplish, it's prioritizing, like what do I want to do first, how do I start things. You just got to dive in and get started, and then you look at it and you've been at it for hours that day, and you feel like, all right, I'm feeling like I'm in a good place now.
Yeah, absolutely. How is Wags Around the World going to change or evolve over the next couple of years?
It's definitely going to change because I won't be in it full time. It was easy for me now. It's not as easy as it was, but I could just hop on a plane and go to another country like that. I was booking cross or international flights and leaving the next day. So I was doing it really on a whim, and something was exciting, I could just go and do it. But I'll be setting up some routes, and I will probably be more strategic and more planned about where I'm going, and I'll be fitting it into sort of a fuller life, I would say. But it's not something that's going to stop in any way. It just might not be as constant as it was. But I need my camera in front of me. It brings me a tremendous amount of joy. So whether it's me being in Amsterdam and photographing more in the same city and looking for relationships there rather than on the other side of the world, that could be part of it too.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I'm excited to see all your photos from Europe and from Amsterdam. That'll be very exciting. Do you have any other upcoming trips planned?
I don't. That move is probably going to happen in the next couple months. My girlfriend and I have talked about sneaking in a trip before then. So that might be a throw a dart at a map and see where we go. Pull up Google flights and see where there's a cheap flight and hop on a plane. So there might be something that would be a last minute decision, like I've been traveling the last couple of years. That's maybe like a last hurrah.
Awesome. How would you define success for yourself and for Wags Around the World?
Success, I would say, was just like feeling true to myself and being really happy. And I was. And, there were times where I was chasing happiness and having trouble with it before I was traveling. And I just felt that I was doing what I was meant to do the last couple of years. And I went out on a limb and I did something kind of unique and just had so much fun doing it. And I'm really proud of what I've accomplished. And I don't say I'm proud of myself for many things in life. I can be self-critical at times, but I just loved what I've done, and I love that I've gone to so many places and photographed so many different relationships with humans and dogs. So to me, like it was a huge success, and even people from the outside might see it as just like something I did for a certain period of time in my life. I built something that I absolutely love and that I can continue growing and exploring for the rest of my life.
That's awesome. All right, John, are you ready to move into the lightning round?
Yes, let's hit it.
Okay, what is something new that you've tried lately? It could be anything. It could be totally random.
Something. So my brother just got married to a Lebanese woman, and I attended my first Lebanese wedding. Well, a lot of customs of it, which was awesome. There's a lot of energy at a Lebanese wedding, and I will say that was such a cool experience for me.
Oh, cool. What are some of the unique things that Lebanese weddings have that maybe like American or Western weddings don't?
So right off the bat, you go in and like after cocktail hour, you think you're sitting down for dinner. They brought in all these drums and were playing for like a half hour. It was much energy. Bride and groom up on people's shoulders. It set the tone for the entire night. And I think every wedding should have something that upbeat and that much fun to start a wedding.
That sounds amazing. That sounds like a blast.
Yeah, it was cool. And I had no idea it was coming. It was unexpected. And all of a sudden it was like, whoa, this is wild to start a wedding. And I had a ton of fun during that portion of it.
That's awesome. Congratulations to your brother. Do you have a lesson or a message that you want to share with listeners?
Chase the dream. That's what I did. It could have just been a dream. But if you have something that you really want to do and that you cannot kick, like I could not get the idea out of my head, chase it and give it a shot. Because otherwise you'll never know.
I love that. What is one thing you wish you knew when you were starting out?
I wish I would have been savvier at like booking places to stay. I think that I wasn't as price conscious as I was later in the trip, and I may have spent a little bit too much money in the beginning. But I wish that I had figured out a savvier way to find places to stay while I was traveling.
Gotcha. All right. This has been awesome, John. Where can people find you and check out your work and support your work and support you and see cute pictures of dogs? Tell us everything.
Yes. Anyone on social media, Wags Around the World is the handle. I mostly post on Instagram. That's my main source of social media, but also TikTok, Facebook, and Twitter's still kicking somehow. And so if anyone wants to follow along, it's been a fun ride, and I'd love to have you join me for it.
Awesome. And sorry, I forgot to ask this in the interview. Do your photos just live on social media, or do you sell prints or any like products with your photos on it? Or yeah, how does that work?
I do a calendar at the end of every year, and the last 2 years I've done it, and I'm going to do it again this year. And I always give back a portion to an animal organization. So first year I did Welfare of Stray Dogs in India. The past year I did City of Buffalo Animal Shelter here in our hometown of Buffalo. I have an organization in mind for this year. I won't put it out there yet. And then I do have some things that might be coming out next year that are pretty exciting.
Ooh, okay. Well, we'll have to have you back on for part 2.
Yes, that would be wonderful.
And I'll definitely make a note to buy your calendar at the end of the year. Awesome.
Thank you so much, Waverly.
Of course. Thank you. All right, everybody. Thank you so much for listening. You can follow our show on Instagram at Version1 Podcast and subscribe to our Substack, version1podcast.substack.com. And you can also find me on buymeacoffee.com/Waverly Colville. Leave us a review on whatever app you're listening to this on and rate us 5 stars. New episodes every Tuesday. John, thank you so much for joining us this week. This was such a fun episode.
Yeah, truly my pleasure. So nice to connect with you, and I really appreciate you having me on.
Of course. Thank you.